Most people believe they understand people. Friends, co-workers, even strangers. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us really don't. Because people rarely show who they actually are. They show the version of themselves that feels safe, acceptable, socially approved. And the strange part is, we all do it. Now, centuries ago, there was a man who studied this behavior very carefully. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. Now, when people hear that name, they immediately imagine something dark, manipulation, power, maybe even evil. But here's the thing. Machiavelli wasn't teaching people how to become villains. He was simply observing human nature, watching people, watching leaders rise and fall, watching friends turn into rivals, watching loyalty disappear the moment power changed hands. And after years of observing this, he realized something uncomfortable. People are not always guided by morality. They are guided by incentives. In simple words, people do what benefits them the most. And once you understand this small truth, a lot of confusing behavior suddenly starts making sense. Think about it for a second. How many times have you seen someone say one thing, but do something completely different? A friend promising loyalty, but disappearing when things become difficult. A coworker smiling at you every morning, but secretly competing with you. Yeah, human behavior can be strange. But Machiavelli noticed something else, something most people completely miss. People don't just respond to kindness, they respond to strength. Now wait, this doesn't mean kindness is useless. Kindness matters. But kindness without boundaries, without confidence, sometimes gets mistaken for weakness. You've probably seen this before. There's always that one person who tries to please everyone, always helping, always agreeing, always being nice. But strangely, people don't always respect them. And this is where it gets interesting, because the person who stays calm, confident, and firm with their decisions often earns more respect. Machiavelli once wrote something very controversial. He said, if a leader cannot be both loved and respected, it is safer to be respected. Now that sentence shocked many people. But if you observe human behavior carefully, it starts to make sense. Respect creates boundaries, and boundaries create stability. Without boundaries, people test limits. They push a little more, and then a little more, until eventually, the respect disappears. Now there is another psychological rule Machiavelli noticed. And honestly, this one explains a lot about modern life. People judge you by results, not effort, not intentions, results. Of course effort matters, hard work matters, but socially, what people admire most is visible success. Think about two entrepreneurs. One works incredibly hard for years, but never builds something successful. Another launches a company and suddenly becomes successful. Who receives more attention? Who receives more respect? Exactly. Results create reputation, and reputation changes how people treat you. But here comes the darker side of human psychology. Success does not only attract admiration, it also attracts envy. When someone around you becomes more successful, more confident, more capable, two reactions start happening inside other people. Some feel inspired, but others start comparing. And comparison quietly creates jealousy. Now, jealousy rarely appears openly. People will still smile. They will congratulate you. But small behaviors begin to change. Subtle criticism, sarcasm, distance, maybe even quiet competition. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that powerful individuals often gain enemies simply by becoming successful. Not because they did something wrong, but because success creates imbalance. It reminds others of what they do not have. And that feeling can make people uncomfortable. Now, hearing all this might sound dark, maybe even a little cynical. But here is the part most people misunderstand. Understanding human nature is not about manipulation. It is about awareness. Because once you understand these patterns, something interesting happens. You stop taking everything personally. You stop being confused by strange behavior. And you start seeing people more clearly. You become more careful with trust, more intentional with your decisions, and strangely, more calm. Because the moment you understand human nature, you stop expecting people to behave perfectly. You simply observe, you learn, and you adapt. Maybe that was Machiavelli's real lesson all along. Not manipulation, not cruelty, just clarity. Seeing people as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. And once you see human nature clearly, life becomes a little less confusing. And your decisions become much, much smarter.